Hey, how you doing? This is John, and welcome to John's Long Box. We're here with Laurie Cunningham. It's been a while since I'd last talked to you.
Yeah, a little bit. It's good to be
Yeah,
back.
you were one of the very first people to that I talked to on this channel, so it's good to welcome you back.
Oh, really? I feel like your channel was going on for a while when I joined, but maybe obviously not.
Well, I was doing non-convers like I was doing just talking about comic books. So yes, I think it was 2 years,
Okay.
but I
Yeah.
wasn't really having conversations. I didn't even think about that. That was something that they could do, and then RJ from the Fourth Age. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He wanted to start interviewing people. So he said, want to be my guinea pig? So I was on his channel. And I said, this is kind of fun. So I started asking people to come on, and people like, who are you? Who are you? And then like after Mike Barron, Chuck Dixon, and somehow I roped JMD Mateus. And so after that, everybody's like, wow, this guy's getting some good guests. And then you came on. So after you, everybody wanted to
Yeah. Me. Who's this girl? Name drop Laurie Cunningham here.
Yeah, everybody's like, hey, Laurie Cunningham, how you doing? Yeah. All right, I want to. That's the Sister Grimm girl. Everybody was saying.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
You remember Richard Shooter was on. He was just like, not Marvel. Tell me about Sister Grimm and Laurie Cunningham.
Exactly. I'm sure this happens. Sure, yeah. You get asked about me all the time.
So I forget. You're in Canada, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, where in Canada?
I'm in Calgary, over in the west, but not like the good west. It's okay west. It's like just like almost into the mountains. It's like an hour drive into before.
Yeah. What province is that?
Alberta. So like above Montana.
Oh, it's above Montana. Okay, that's right.
Yeah. I feel like I always have to like what state.
Well, my wife is from Winnipeg.
Yeah.
She was born in London, moved to Winnipeg, and then her mom moved to Vancouver. So me personally, as far as Canada, I've been to Montreal, I've been to Toronto, and I've been to Vancouver. So yeah. I keep telling my wife, because when I was a school teacher before I was a construction worker, and I'd have the summers off. This is before I met my wife, and then I had the summers off, but all my friends were working. So I used to just drive around the country in my car,
Yeah.
And so I've been all over the States, and now I'm thinking, wouldn't it be fun to like fly out to Alaska, rent a car, and drive all over Canada? But, because as a construction worker, I could get up to like 10 weeks off a year, but she has a regular job, and I'm like, I don't want to drive around Canada without my wife. I mean, that's just asking for trouble. Oh, wow. What is this? I never get super chat, so this is fun. First time catching you live. Had some points I saw video videos. Be watching more. Just wanted to. Oh, thank you, Gatekeeper. Wow. I wish I had like a button, an explosion, or sound effects, because I never get super chats. So I feel like asking for super chats is like an OnlyFans type of thing. So I never. It's a little uncomfortable. You appreciate it when you get it, but you don't want to ask. So I'm actually a little embarrassed. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
It's funny because it showed up yellow, and I'm like, "What's the spam?"
Yeah,
like someone wants you to like buy their like depression medication.
Yeah.
Like,
ED medicine. Please, I'm trying to talk to a girl over here, and they're bringing up my ED.
Yeah, for sure.
So Calgary.
That's a different kind of OnlyFans.
The only thing I know about Calgary, I know two things about Calgary. That's where John Byrne lived, the comic book artist, and it's SCTV moved to Calgary for a couple of years.
I have no idea what SCTV is. So most people know Calgary. So sometimes the Calgary Stampede, it's like this big like rodeo amusement park week that happens here. Bret Hart's from here. Seth MacFarlane's from here.
Oh, okay. That's why
I feel like those are the main ones. I feel like in the comic book community, those are like the two people that like people are like really into.
Yeah, I'll keep the neck brace for sympathy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't wait to take it home. Because as my facial hair grows, it just rubs again and it drives me nuts. So I'm constantly doing this, and then my wife is tightening it. I think she's slowly strangling me. Is that Laurie from Calgary? Does she hang with Alpha Flight? Yes.
Daily, yes.
Yeah. Are you familiar with Alpha Flight?
I do know Alpha Flight. Not like I haven't read it or anything, but like I know of it. And I've
Really?
seen some of the characters.
There's one Marvel team set in Canada and you don't even read it? Jeez.
Are they from, or any of the characters from Calgary? Like I always think of Wolverine. Wolverine's the closest to me, like geographically, fictionally, but like geographically. Like he's the closest Marvel character. Yeah, Marvel character too.
I know in issue number 1, because they were scattered, because Canada's a big country. People forget how big Canada is. Canada is huge. But I remember one of them was from Calgary, and I want to either say Snowbird or Shaman. Is there a lot of Native Americans in Calgary?
So there's like some reserves nearby and all that stuff. Like there's lots generally in Canada. So, but I don't know enough about about Alpha Flight to give you any real answers there.
Oh, I always thought ASAP Imagine was you, but no, it's somebody else.
That's Hades.
Oh, that's Hades. How you doing, Hades?
Yeah. No, he runs the show.
She watched. Yes, that's a deep cut. That Sasquatch, his first appearance he threw at DC-10. Probably Shaman. Yeah. The other Canadian comic book is Captain Canuck. Are you familiar with Captain Canuck?
Again, I know of it. I haven't read it. I am very behind in all of the things I need to read. Well, and now, like,
that's from like the 80s.
I
collected it because the artist was aping John Byrne, and John Byrne, my favorite comic book superhero artist. So it always had like a amateurish John Byrne look to it. So I always collect. And then I thought it was funny because one of my friends told me that Canuck was like a dirty word for Canadians. And I really don't, you know what I mean? So like you don't say Canuck to a Canadian. You get I thought it was like a dirty joke.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I thought it was like something I shouldn't be reading.
Someone fully lied to you. Like we have a whole hockey team called the Canucks.
Yeah, I didn't know.
like I guess maybe that's us owning our insults, but no, I'm unaware of anyone being offended by that. So
I finally got Captain Canuck comics, and I was showing my wife, you know, when she moved in, I was like, hey, showing her, and the address was Portage Avenue, Winnipeg. It was literally on the same block, like 2 short blocks away. She's like, wow, this guy was like right there the whole time that I was there. Like, I wonder how many times like we waited on the same bus stop while he was making Captain Canuck comics. Yeah. You know, and there was a photograph. Like, she's like, yeah, that's my time. She got, you know, a little nostalgic. So there you go. Yeah. And in issue 2, there's fan art by her cousin and Captain Canuck. Oh, cool. And it's funny because she misremembered. You know how childhood. She thought her cousin drew Captain Canuck. So I was looking through it. It's like, is this your cousin's name? And it turned out he just drew Captain Canuck as a fan art, and they published it in the letters page.
Yeah.
So, there you go. Oh, that's all. I just used up all my Canadian
that's all my Canadian knowledge. That's fair.
There we got Pops over here. How you doing, Pops? Pops, like I said, anybody turns on a camera anywhere on YouTube, Pops shows up. Yes, Shaman is from Calgary. There he goes.
I had no idea. I'll have to go check him out. That makes it a little more intriguing for sure.
Yeah, he was on a reservation, like in a clinic in a reservation. He's a doctor in his real identity, and then a mystical shaman as
I find it weird reading stuff from Calgary, like especially that's like mainstream, because I don't know, I'm so used to reading stuff from like New York and Los Angeles or like London and stuff, like the big cities, to like Calgary's a pretty big city, but like it feels very like not mainstream. And even like if anything's Canadian, it's typically Toronto. So I don't know. I always find it weird where I'm like reading something, I'm like, oh, I know what place they're talking about. And I haven't read many, but it feels weird.
How big is Calgary now that you made me think of it?
I want to say like 2 million people. I actually off the top, which could be super wrong. It could be 10 million. I feel like Shadowpunk over here is Wikipedia things. maybe you Wikipedia.
You know, I went to Wisconsin in the winter for a convention, and it was freezing. And then as I'm like flying away, it's just blankets white, and I'm like, there's still a whole nother country north of this. That's even colder.
Yeah. We got definitely got some cold winters.
I joke about that you know, my wife, she's from Canada, she's like, yeah, she would wrestle the polar bears on the way to work, and you know,
of course,
yeah.
You have to wrestle them so you can control them and get on their back,
Ride
saddle them, ride them.
Yeah, otherwise, what good are they?
Yeah,
I'm trying to listen. You don't say the boot. You know, you don't have the typical Canadian.
yeah, I don't know. As people comment on that, and then I don't think I say too many things, but I think the stereotypical kind of Canadian is a little more East Coast, but I'm not actually sure.
Yeah, my
again,
wife,
whenever you have when it's just your own voice, you're like, what do you mean I have an accent?
right. I'll say hello to people. They're like, oh, you from New York? And I'm like, really? I don't hear it. But then again, that's. But when my wife first moved here, every time my wife would say a boot, my sister would laugh.
Yeah.
So became conscious about it. Now, she just saw her friend came out here her friend has family out here. They hooked up and, went out to dinner for the first time in like 10 years. She's like, you sound like a New Yorker. You don't have any Canadian accent anymore.
Yeah. She's been corrupted.
Have you been to Toronto?
Yep. I don't feel like I weirdly haven't been to many places. Like Toronto is probably as far east as I've been, and Vancouver, that's kind of as far west as you can go, and it's close. So, but yeah, like you said, it's big. Like there's been people who've gone to Toronto and they're like, oh, I'm or Montreal, and they're like, oh, I'm here. Like that's close to you, right? I'm like, yeah, like a quick 5-hour flight, or a 5-day drive. Not 5. Like if you drove straight, it'd probably be about 2 days or something, I think, for me to drive to Toronto, but. Not that you just drive straight.
Yeah, Canada's as big as the United States, and then, and then it's and then you got the Nunavut territories and Yukon territory. All of those.
Yeah, it's funny because Hades is over in the UK, running the show, and when he does cons, I feel like everything's an hour away. I feel the farthest he has to go is a 3-hour travel time, whereas for me there's the one's in Calgary, and then my next closest one is a 3-hour drive, and then the next closest one after that is a 16-hour drive. It's not quick to go anywhere.
People in Europe forget how big North America is. The United States alone is as big as Europe, and Canada is just as big as the United States, if not bigger. I think Canada is bigger.
I think so. We got all that ice up in the north, all these little icicle islands that count. We're counting it.
So anyway, we've been talking about Canada for 13 minutes, but you have Sister Grimm is your comic, and it's live right now on Kickstarter, right?
Yep. Yeah, I think we're actually at exactly the halfway point. It's been live for 15 days, and it goes for another 15 days, and we're funded, which is awesome. But now we're just unlocking stretch goals and adding new fun rewards, and we're gonna have a draw when we get to 50 backers and stuff. So yeah, we're just trying to. Now the stress is a little bit down, but we obviously still are trying to get our comic in front of as many eyes as possible and lure people in.
Okay, I'm hitting the wrong buttons. Do you want me to bring up your campaign?
Yeah, go for it.
Sure.
It should be updated.
Okay, let's see. Add that to state. So that Sister Grimm. Tell us. Oh, can I play this trailer?
Yeah, go for it.
I ask because sometimes people have music or
there is music where you do what you want.
Okay. Okay.
Ta-da.
I saw the card said London, so I got to ask: is this London, England, or London,
London,
Ontario?
England. Yeah.
Okay.
yeah. So Hades is the founder of ASAP. Like you know this, but for anyone who's new and watching, I'll give the brief little background. So he's the founder of ASAP Imagination, which is what we publish this under. I'm the editor in chief, but he created this whole comic book universe and lured me into it. And it was set in it's an alternate London, so there's superheroes, there's paranormal things, there's touches of magic, and all these corrupt organizations, and this huge catastrophic event that has some paranormal elements to it happens and basically decimates London. And there's all these superheroes that go missing or get killed, and then basically there's the aftermath is all of these paranormal aftershocks, and basically that's kind of where Sister Grimm fits in, where it happens 3 months after the event, and it features Lily Connors, and she basically during the event, she had a physical encounter with death and ended up with some abilities, but basically no memories of the last 3 months. So she's now trying to navigate that and figure everything out. So yeah, so that's kind of that's it in a nutshell.
I'm looking. While you're talking, I was looking. So I mean, obviously, you could get the comic.
Yeah, of course.
So this is the third issue. How many pages is this?
They're all 22 pages.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, so 2 issues are already out. This is the first time we brought it to Kickstarter. We were kind of just not doing crowdfunding for a while, and then we're like, you know what? Let's get into crowdfunding. And there's going to be 4 issues total that kind of completes the story arc, so people don't have to.
Could you get issues? I'm looking. I'm scrolling through your rewards.
Yeah, of course. So there's a physical catch up and a digital catch up. But if you like any of the other rewards, like we have like the mask and we have some more stuff coming in the add-ons, you can always just add on single digital issues or single physical issues.
Shoot themselves in the foot by not offering back issues.
Yeah, for sure. And I know, like, especially I find when you're an unknown element, and like I said, this is our first time on Kickstarter, and I know it's like a big commitment to jump all in on 3 issues when if you don't know who I am or who Sister Grimm is or who ASAP is. So there's like people who you can buy a single issue if you want to just dip a toe in, but you can also get all 3 issues. And then there's other kind of cool rewards. If you want to get all in and immerse yourselves, we have like this on the screen. You have like that's the pendant that is part of the universe. It's a.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about this. This is actually a physical trinket you could buy.
Yeah, it's funny. I was wondering if it was. Oh, I do have one here. Yeah, it's like so there's this thing called the Somnium Diamond, which is the key to the dream realm. Oh, this one doesn't have the actual cord on it. This must be a new one, but it's like this, and you can like wear it around your neck. So it's made to look like bone. This one's actually made of clay, so we're not just like giving people dead things. It's like,
great.
Yeah. Yeah, we haven't dug up any graves, and we're not just carving bone or anything. But yeah, so it's clay. It's made to look like bone. So it's a replica of this big important item or artifact, and
it's also the symbol of your virtues and vice. So it's
yeah,
pretty cool.
Yeah, cool. For sure. So the diamond is pretty key throughout the whole thing. So it's this cool like physical thing you can have that is really important in the world.
And then you make it a mask.
Yeah. So this is brand new. These just got made recently by Christopher Surge. From Armatite over. Oh, I may have said that wrong. I feel like it's not quite Armatite, but maybe Hades is there to correct me. but he's he's basically he's a cosplayer, and he does all this 3D printing, and he's like making all these sweet masks. Hades just recently updated our website. He also made a faux mask for one of our other titles, Messiah. There's this character who has this like big like, I don't know, you don't see his face. So it's like basically this cosplay thing, and his clothes always change. So it'd be like a really easy, like just put this on. And I'd done some cosplaying of Sister Grimm myself, and some other people have had, and we've all just like face painted ourselves. And I don't know if, I'm sure there's tips and tricks so my eyes aren't exhausted. Cause like when it's like the whole thing and you get the black like right around your eye by the end of a con, I'm like, can't see anymore. So the idea is you can just snap this on, and then like there's lenses so you can see through it. And so it has like, because when she changes, she's half Reaper hybrid, so you get like she turns like half half Reaper, obviously. So yeah, so it's this pretty sweet thing. And again, if you're not into cosplaying, you could have it as a display element or something like that.
Yeah, you see, here's here's the two V's for that make up the diamond, the points of virtue. So that's pretty clever. These are all the first issues of how do you say, ASAP Publishing?
Yeah, ASAP. Yep. Yeah, so again, so Sister Grimm is in a universe. We call it Our World. You can get super immersed in it and you can read all of the issues, but you don't need to. We never wanted to make it something so that like people felt obligated to like read 6 titles and all this stuff. We do have this thing that we do where it's just like, you can, if people really want to get immersed in it, we started putting this on the front of all of our, where's my camera? In the front of all of our comics. So it has like a chronological timeline of everything, and it starts, oops, sorry, I can open it up again. I was too quick. But yeah, it has a chronological timeline. So you can start where like, so this is the prose book, the flip book that was up there. And then we started turning it into comics. Sorry, I just need to quit looking at this myself in the screen and just actually look at this. And then Hull is a one-shot, and we're doing some draws for that. And then there's Sister Grimm, obviously. Messiah was our flagship comic book that Hades and Kyle Wright did. And then we have Messiah 2. There's Dead of Night and Dead of Night 2. Like this is obviously an older issue, like Sister, like number 3 is coming out. And we have OPSEC 1 and 2, and number 3 is out. So people can follow things and go chronologically, but you can also just read Sister Grimm. Like there's like everything to like mentions the event, and like I've explained multiple times, and it does like tell you what it is. Like in each comic, it starts to like give you more pieces of the puzzle. And I think if you read more, you do get more pieces of the puzzle, but I don't think you like would be confused. Like with Sister Grimm, I tried to make it so you could just read Sister Grimm and not,
right.
If you don't want to, you don't have to read everything. Like you don't have to get in and blow your bank. But I obviously we would love people to get immersed and want to read all the titles. But
that's what I'm doing with my comic Heroic Tales. Each issue standalone. But I would love it if you bought every issue. But you could jump in anywhere and you'll get a full story, because
yeah, that's cool to do it like that.
I just think it's a big ask to ask somebody to shell out money and then like, nope, you got to get the next issue. You know?
yeah. Well, and we tried to be like with 4 issues. We felt that was reasonable. Where like obviously you still have to get 4 issues, but there's an option to. Going to a local store. Yeah, just a quick grocery trip for 3 hours.
It's funny that you said it, because I started to realize the differences in size between England and say the United States when I was reading the Hellblazer, which was the comic book with John Constantine, and John Constantine is in London, and somebody says something that they got to drive up to Scotland to investigate a clue. So his buddy is a taxi driver, so he's like, turn your fare off, we're driving up to Scotland, and it said like 8 hours later. I'm like, yeah. Like for me, 8 hours, like I could drive like I don't know, like I could drive to Montreal in 8 hours, you know what I mean? But like I didn't realize that you could just drive to another country in England.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about this. This comic, Dog Eaters, I really, really enjoyed this. I bought this years ago. How is this tied into you guys?
So ASAP Imagination's a publisher, and we publish our own titles, which are all through Our World. So that includes Sister Grimm. But we also have the imprint, Any One World, which we publish other people's stuff. Like basically, we started doing this, and some people are like, "Hey, do you think you could help me out?" And Hades was kind of like, yeah, let's do it. So we started up an imprint, and now people submit their stories to us, and we publish them. But we also opened up distribution to just anyone, so whether we publish them or not. So like Dog Eaters is like, we do distribution for them.
Oh, cool.
We have the graphic novel, but there's also all of these, like those 6 comics right there. Those are all in our digital distribution, so you can get them through our website. So, and it's basically these 6 creators have donated a single issue to the campaign. So every time we hit a certain milestone, which on this one, I believe it's when we hit 300 pounds, we unlock another comic and everyone gets it. So the idea is that at the end, everyone gets all 6 comics. And we
then
did this on our
the next ones, the first
yeah. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, there's like some cool stuff in there. So like dog
eaters, I really enjoyed. I don't. I just remember getting it, in a regular comic book store, and I don't know why, because it's not normally. And I was like, I got to get the rest of these. These were really good. So there you go.
Yeah. Well, if do you only have the first issue?
No, I went back to the comic book store. And I got all the issues. I really enjoyed it. It wasn't my normal type of thing, and I don't know if I picked it up by accident or if the guy was just like, here, get this or whatever. But whatever it is, it worked. I enjoyed it. It was a good comic.
Yeah, it's cool. Like we take both Hades and I, when we go to cons and stuff, we take the graphic novel with us and basically put it on our table. Like that's what we do when we publish people. Like you're trying to get people into stores and shops, and we put them on our website, obviously, but we also like take as many books as we can and put them on our table in hopes that people will buy them as well, so we can kind of bring them everywhere.
You're already funded. Good for you.
Yeah. I think it actually just funded like yesterday or day ago, or 1 or 2 days ago. So thankfully, we made it.
This is your first time on Kickstarter?
So it's Sister Grimm's first time on Kickstarter. So way back when we started ASAP, we did a Kickstarter for Messiah and the anthology that you kind of mentioned, and that was shown, like the flip book. And that funded, and then we kind of just took a break from Kickstarter. We were doing a lot. We were doing it all in house, and then we decided to come back because we just released our first ever graphic novel, and we did that in April. And so we did that through. So now we're kind of like back in Kickstarter and back in the crowdfunding realm. So that one was our first big return, I guess. And now we're doing single issues too, because we're like, you know what, Kickstarter has this like great community. It's obviously like there's, especially indie comics, it seems to be like a main place you buy things. Like I know there's other platforms, and I think that we have intentions of exploring those as well. Like, but Kickstarter is kind of, we're only so many people, and right now I'm in the middle of like buying and selling a house, and I'm like, I would love to get this more. So it's like, and I still got like my 2 little mini humans to look after, so like there's a lot going on. So I'm like
that's right. You're a mother. You got 2 kids.
Yeah, and like little and needy, and very demanding of my attention and energy. So I got like a lot going on right now with trying to move and look after this. And
when I moved from Queens to here, I mean, I love it. I love having a house, but man, I knew buying a house and moving was aggravating, but I didn't know how aggravating, it was the worst. I would not recommend moving.
Yeah, I hate moving, and I hoped that I never have to do it again, but we had children, and we're like, you know what, we need a little bit more space, and something came up. It was actually a bit like, we were keeping our eye open, but like we weren't. It was kind of a bit of an impulse move to like something came available, and we're like, we can afford it, and I think it's where we want to be. So we went for it, and then but I had already had the Kickstarter planned, and like I had all this stuff lined up, and I'm just like, oh my god, this is gonna be a lot of work. So, and I just got bags, and I'm like sleeping like 4 hours a night. Stuff like that, trying to do it.
Your kids aren't reading comics.
They're so the oldest one's almost 5.
Okay.
And so I read to her, and we've read like a few things. Like we have like Spidey and His Amazing Friends, and I've read Spider-Ham to her, and then she has some My Little Ponies and like Lumberjanes, and there's some other Princess List. There's like a few like I've kind of just slowly started introducing her to, but they're also, I find them, they're like harder to read to them because you have to like point, because she doesn't read yet, so I'm like pointing to all the speech bubbles, whereas I feel with children's books it's basically like one panel.
Right.
Like, I know it's not comics,
but panel. Yeah,
basically a page is a panel, whereas like comics, she's like, who's speaking? And it's like so it's like more like involved for me.
I was a former grammar school teacher. I taught kindergarten to 3rd grade.
Yeah.
I could pick out kids. After one day with the class, I could pick out the kids whose parents read with the kids.
Yeah.
It makes a difference.
Yeah.
It really does. Just, there's kids who just like, they have no concept of a book, which sounds weird to people like us, but there's some kids who just, just the fact of sitting down, that patience, this world of instant gratification, to sit down with a kid and teach them, left to right, hold the book, how to open these are invaluable skills, and it makes a big difference.
Yeah. Well, then I'm just going to introduce her to manga and then really confuse her. Now that we've got the left to right figured out, let's throw in right to left and really confuse you.
I never read My Little Pony. All I know is that there's like a group of like adult men that like My Little Pony, and they're the creepiest people in the world.
So Jada, you are 100% when she wants to read My Little Pony, I groan. It is the wordiest comic ever. There, you like open up a page and it's just text. I'm like, oh my god! And she'll like, can we read? And most of the time, she picks a book and we can like read the whole, like depending what I will like read a couple books every night, or one book if it's longer. When I pick up My Little Ponies, I'm like, we're reading half of this comic maximum. They're so long. They're not. I don't enjoy them actually, but like she loves unicorns and ponies and pink things and magic, so we do it. We do it for her.
That's good. And you don't do any of the art. You're a writer.
So I draw, but I don't do any of the stuff. Like I don't do Sister Grimm and stuff. Like I think I have like a mini comic I've started drawing called Demon Potatoes, and I basically
Demon Potatoes.
Yeah, it's like a kind of like a horror comedy kind of thing. It has like a bit of like it's very zombie-ish, to be fair. But yeah, so it's kind of that. And so I have a little 8-pager that I drew. I actually don't have it on hand, but I'm like starting to work on issue 2. So when I go to cons, I typically, and I just like, I wanted to do something to make it feel like comics were more accessible, because so many people who like come to us or talk to me even, where it's just like, I really want to do a comic, but I don't know how to draw, or artists are too expensive or something like that. And like, so I like draw a bit, but like to sit down and draw a comic, it's a whole different skill set, and like it's hard. So like I like was doing it and basically trying to show people that you can do it. And so, and even that whole, and you can trying to like just take away all the barriers. So I like print it from home and I like fold it and staple it and cut it. And every con I make about 30 comics, and then I like drew some stickers and I print those off from home and hand cut them. So it's basically like, it's tedious, but like it starts a conversation, because there's so many people who want to make comics out there, but there's so many barriers to it, just price wise and art wise, I guess. So it was just like, but it's been fun. And maybe eventually I'll stop doing all of like the hand folding and stuff, because it is like a big time suck. But
so what got you were you like a little kid that was reading comics? Or were you an adult that got into comics?
When I was a kid, I was like reading Archies and like Calvin and Hobbes and Garfield, Fireside, like those kind of comics. Not really like what I consider like the comics I write now, I guess. Like I definitely got into comics more as an adult. Like basically when I met Hades, like doing this, not any of this was never on my radar. Like I'd never had any like, oh, when I grew up I wanted to be a cartoonist when I was little, so like have that artsy bit of to me, but I never like, I switched and ended up very academic. Like I have a degree in accounting and business, so like I went that route, and then like I've
artist needs a degree.
Yeah,
well,
which
that might help you, because comic book people can't keep track of finances, so you might have to rely on us.
I like I don't love it, which is why I got out of it. Like I got laid off from a job, and I'm like, I'm not going back to it. So like dove into this, but for the business side of ASAP, it's like been helpful. And so we're able to like stay on top of that and make sure people get their royalty statements and all that stuff. But like I like none of this was on my radar. And then when I met Hades just online, like he was big comic book fan, and then started his own business. And even like I was just gonna do that anthology with him, and then like step back and just cheer him on. I'm like, all right, I did this one-off project, but then in that in that anthology, there was there's basically a story where he's like, you should turn this into a comic book character. And I was like, that's ridiculous. I'm not doing that. And then fully like, but I was like, but hypothetically, what would that look like? And then I started writing a comic script, and now I'm fully sucked into it. So yeah, like now I read.
You had to like make a comic script, or did it come natural to you? Like, Did you write it in a prose style and then have to convert it?
So I was like, when we met, I was like trying to be a novelist. I'm like, I want to be like a New York Times bestseller, like all that kind of thing. So yeah. So like, but I'd like read some of his scripts and stuff. So I was like, kind of like, he's just like, yeah, just like kind of use that format. And I started writing Sister Grimm, and I tried, and it like wasn't working very well at all. And I was just like, I'm overthinking this. The story's like just blocked because I was too busy being like, what does the page look like? And it was something like, I'm not one of those people who like, when I was writing prose, I don't like know what my character necessarily looks like and big details and stuff like that. So like switching to comics was different because all of a sudden I'm like, had to know what people looked like and like what scenes made sense. So it was like, I really had to like switch that visual side of my brain back on. But when I like wrote Sister Grimm, it was very much like very like basic. Like I didn't worry about layouts. It was kind of just like panel, and it's kind of like very brief descriptions where like they're talking, and then it would be the dialogue, and then I would basically, once that was all done and the whole story was out, like every issue I've gone back and like taken that and
how many
added more detail.
Like the page turn because I'm having difficulty with that, and it's like I'm having difficulty explaining it to people. This is going to sound arrogant. I don't mean it to be arrogant, but like after 40 years of reading comics, like when I'm writing, I'm like, okay, this is where the page should change. Okay, there's too many panels on this page. This is the concept for I don't want to say it sounds intuitive, but I think I absorbed it through osmosis. But and I'm trying to be polite, but like you said, you didn't really read a lot of comics as a kid. So is this like a difficult, like I could see somebody who's like a screenplay writer or a novelist getting into comics, just not paying attention to panels, just you know what I mean? Like they just write panel, but with no pay attention to this page, turn the page, this page, turn the page. That's part of comics, like reveal, like the monster is going to be on the flip side. They're like opening the door. Hey, Laurie, what do you think is over here? You don't put the monster on the bottom. You turn the page and then you see the monster and things like that.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, and maybe like there is a part of it that is a little intuitive, and I don't want to like, I don't love saying that because I don't want to make it sound like it's something that you can't learn. But I do find it like very hard to describe how to know what the pacing is on the page, because there's definitely some times where like I know like it's easy with dialogue where you can look at like a script and just be like, there is way too much dialogue on this page. And I know for like there's like a few things where like I know once it goes to the letterer, I'm probably gonna have to cut a couple things here, because you send it to the artist and you're like, yeah, everything looks good, but once it gets to the letterer, I'm just like, I'm gonna have to cut a couple things still, aren't I? So like I'm just like aware of it for that side of things. But when it's like so the sister issue 1 of Sister Grimm has very little dialogue, and so for me it's very much like a mood. So like I don't know, like somehow you like follow the panels where you're like, I want people to like feel this on this page, and if you have a panel in there that like interrupts that, you take it away and put it on the next page. Like to me it's like it's very much by feel, which again, I don't feel like that's super helpful to anyone who's like, how do you write comics?
But it's hard to explain, and it sounds very pretentious. You know what I mean? So
yeah, and I've never really thought about it. And I feel
have a comic book out, and here you know what I mean? So yes,
so, it's gonna be tough because so in a few weeks I'm going to a writers convention, and it's actually like more targeted towards novelists, but like ASAP Imagination publishes novels and stuff too. So I'm just like bringing everything. And we're selling stuff, or I guess I'm selling stuff. But I'm also teaching a workshop on how to write a comic script. And all of a sudden you're asking this, I'm like, oh, I need to think about this a little bit more. Cause it's like, how do you know like what to do? I'm just like, you just feel it.
Well, first off, let's say Shadowpunk is just wonderful. Shadowpunk has a great comic called Shadowpunk, coincidentally. What do you want? Are you on X? Or I'm never saying X, by the way. It's Twitter. Always Twitter.
X. Yeah, it's at LAURCUNN. On
if you want to put it, I'll put it.
Yeah, sure.
I don't think it lets non.
Oh, do I have to put I probably have to put the link, don't I? I'll go find my profile. People can bear with me while I do a brief search. Yeah. Thankfully, I was already in this to get the link.
I started writing comic book scripts years ago. I always wanted to write comic books, and no formal training. Like I said, it's just, oh yeah, I've been reading comic books all my life, so I should be able to do. You know what I mean? Just I've been living in a house all my life, so I know how to build a house. That's not the truth. But RJ from the Fourth Age, he said, like, if you want to write comics, you got to get Will Eisner's sequential art book. So I got to say that was the best thing. I forget. I think I paid like $12 for it on eBay, a used copy. I got an old edition because the new edition is edited, and I don't like the edits. But I got an old edition, and it just breaks down like dialogue, the pacing, time. It's such an invaluable resource. And I look at the scripts before I wrote that and the scripts after I wrote that, and it's night and day. Not read that. Oh, I cleared this. I didn't even read it. Some of it's probably experience as well as intuition, or perhaps intuition strengthened by experience. Right. I forget what Woody Allen movie it was. I used to be a big Woody Allen fan back before I knew how creepy he was. But, pretentious New Yorkers, we all like Woody Allen. And he said, you can't really teach writing. You could just expose people who have talent to better writing and hope that they hone themselves, which... But I do think that if somebody doesn't have any talent, they could become a writer too. Like
I think
I said it all.
Learn. And like I think that like I even where it's just like I think talking to people, like there's some people you talk to them and they're great storytellers. Like I'd say verbally, I don't think of myself as a great storyteller. I'm kind of like I have this like weird assumption. I'm like, people don't want to hear this. I like really nutshell things. Whereas like some people like are really good at talking in length, but you're like engaged the whole time. Whereas some people are good at like talk in length and you're just like tuning out and thinking about something else, right? Where like I think there are skills and like that you can learn to make yourself more engaging and make yourself a better storyteller. And like I find it's interesting too. Like when I started writing, I had this thing where I'm just like, because when I was still trying to do novels, I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, okay, I'm like, start writing. And then 10 years later, maybe I'll have my first novel or something like that. Because I figured like there's all this stuff I needed to do. And then actually it was like, again, meeting Hades, it was like, we decided to write this book and we put this really quick timeline on it. And in my head, you're like, well, I should have read this book. I should watch this. I should do this. And you're like, because there's all this stuff that you can like learn and get better with. Like I haven't read this Eisner book, but I've read some other books that have like helped my craft and helped my understanding of, and also just like fun books like that have helped my craft and stuff where you're not like purposefully learning something, but you're like reading a great storytelling book and you're absorbing it. And like, even whether you're doing it consciously or subconsciously, but I know like, I had this thing where I'm like, I need to do all this stuff before I can put my work out there. But like writing and art and anything that's creative, like it's a progression. So like you can put out, like even a musician, you put out like an EP or your like first single, and like maybe it's like in your garage, but like people listen to it. And then your next thing, you put out something where it's like 4 songs, and then like you go further and suddenly you're like, eventually you're playing out stadiums. Like it's a whole progression. Same thing with comics. It's like, you can wait and you can like do all of this stuff and all that, but like to me, I'm like, some of the most valuable experience you can get is just putting your stories out there and getting feedback. And like, maybe you cringe at it like 10 years from now. You're like, oh, is that what I wrote? Is that like it's even funny. Like sorry,
I found a 3.5 drive. Anybody remember this technology? It was after the big floppy disk, then they had the small floppy disk, then they had like a 3.5 hard drive. And I have oodles of writing on one of those, and I got to find a place because I can't access this anymore. But I was reading a lot of stuff that I wrote in college. I was like, this was pretty good. Like I was all prepared to be like I was a better writer back then. But then again, I was writing all the time. Now I'm working all the time. But so just do it. Just do it. I like what Shadowpunk says right here. You can teach people techniques and approaches, but you can't make people more creative. That is excellent. I think that's what I was trying to say. But Shadowpunk, he can do it all. He can write, he can draw, he can color. Hey, Gatekeeper, it's good to see new names. So cool. Good new names, new people. Yeah, like what you were saying about telling stories. I got friends who like to talk, but oh my God, I just want to strangle them after 5 minutes, And then I got friends who like, tell that same story again. Tell that which story? That the story when you went to 7-Eleven and you bought a soda And you know what I mean? They're just like, that's not, but the way they tell it, some people got that gift.
Yeah, where you can listen to them tell the same thing over and over again. Where some people, it's just like it could be actually like a very interesting event. You're like, man, you made that boring. Was that it? Was that the story? So
It's funny because I got into a car accident last week, and as I was telling my foreman, I had to call my foreman. You know what I mean? All of a sudden, I started turning into a story, and I started laughing, and he was laughing, and I'm talking this like 4 hours after the accident. So, I long story short, I started to get like tunnel vision as I was driving. So I went on the exit. So now I'm on the exit, and I was like, I'm gonna go into this gas station over here because I don't feel right. And all of a sudden, I felt myself fainting. So I turned the wheel, boom, into a tree. So now I'm waking up, and I'm telling myself, this is it. This is it. I'm hitting this tree. Goodbye, everybody. I hit the tree. Airbag goes off, and I'm sitting there stunned. And I just hear, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And I look, and it's the skipper from Gilligan's Island. I'm like, it's a guy in blue. He's got the fire chief.
Yeah.
But he's wearing the blue outfit, the blue hat. He's got the white hair. He's all chubby and everything. And I'm looking at him, and I'm dazed, but I'm also laughing at the same time. And I go, "You look like the skipper." And he goes, "Yeah, everybody goes." And then also two women, just gorgeous women, come running. So I just go, "Here's Ginger and Marianne." And he starts laughing. And the two girls are like, "You okay?" They saw they get out of the. And now I just start laughing. I go, "I'm dead. I'm going to the and it's the skipper, Ginger and Marianne. And I'm like, I'm Gilligan. So part of me,
the afterlife.
And I'm going, am I in heaven or am I in hell? But the funny thing is I was legitimately thinking about this because I just hit a tree and my brain was all. But that shows you how I am in the middle of a horrible accident. I'm thinking of Gilligan's Island, and then all of a sudden, just like the veil just lifted, and all of a sudden I realized how serious. But I'm telling this to my foreman. He goes, "You hit a tree, and you're talking about the skipper." He goes, "There's something wrong with you." I'm like, "Yeah, I guess storytelling. It's proof positive that there'll always be storytellers because as I'm worried about my life, I'm thinking about Gilligan's Island. The images on Kickstarter, wild free time. Yeah, okay. So Shadowpunk wants to know if. Follow Shadowpunk on Twitter. Follow LA. Here it is.
Laurie Cunningham.
Shadowpunk
you are. See you
he's so much better at reposting me than I am. He promotes me better than I do.
Shadowpunk, if you follow me on Twitter, like I post about this incessantly right now. Like I assume people are unfollowing. There's a mass exodus of unfollowing just because they're like, Jesus, Laurie never shuts up about her Kickstarter. Like
you got to.
Yeah, well, I feel like when I'm not doing a Kickstarter, I'm like, oh, like I just talk about normal things, and then like, oh, yeah, every now and then I remind people I have books. And whereas like Kickstarter, I'm just like 20 posts a day. Here's the art. Here's an update. Here's where we're at. New backers. We got like we got like all this stuff coming, and like I feel like people mute me for like 30 days at least. But I hope they don't, and I hope they just back us and share all our stuff. So feel free to share all our stuff.
I gotta say, I've never blocked anybody. I've never unfollowed it. Well, I've unfollowed people because I don't want to argue politics with people or stuff like that. Yeah. But I don't know. Can you mute? Yeah, I've never muted anybody, and I've never blocked anybody. I just unfollow some people.
Yeah, me too. No, I need and block whoever the hell I want. I feel like I go to Twitter to have fun, and sometimes people are not there for fun, and I'm just like, you know what? Nope.
Oscar over here. Oscar's a great guy. He's available for work. He's doing some art for me, and he's coloring my Mary Sue story. And he'll be drawing and coloring my official. I call it my Vertigo title. So it's like I have a superhero line that's all ages, and then I'm gonna do like an adult, not a dirty book, but like.
There's no way to say you're drawing an adult comic without.
I know without sounding like an old.
Like that's what I'm doing, but it's like not that at all.
So Oscar's so talented, He did coloring for Marvel and DC. What the hell is going on in Marvel and DC that they're not giving Oscar more work?
Yeah, it's nice when you get to find good artists like
yeah,
especially art that matches your story.
So that's are you with the same art team for all three of your comics?
Yeah, so for the so issue 1 to 3 are all with this artist we found out of Argentina. He was basically referred to us by one of our other artists from Argentina. So we have a lot of Argentinian artists. But yeah, he was like this great, like gritty, like he has this gritty watercolor style that was like just perfect for the story because it's dark and it's kind of like a little melancholy, but then like we throw in like this side character who adds like a lot of levity and morbid humor. Like he's a ghost, so the humor is quite morbid.
Well, Sister Grimm is if I remember correctly, she's like like an aspect of death itself.
Yeah, she's a human reaper hybrid.
Joyful of stories, you know.
Yeah, like yeah, like one of her abilities is killing people, so it's not like super lighthearted.
Really, if you think about it.
Yeah. So it's like a little dark. So yeah, so like Nicholas, like he's the Nieto, like he's had this great like vibe to him, and like he was actually drawing like some other like grittier like art and stuff, and this ended up being his first publication. Like he was working on this other graphic novel with his brother, basically about I've never read it, but I believe it's about it's like some Argentinian political story, kind of like history. I think it's real. If I remember, like he's also a teacher. So he has like obviously some interest in that. But yeah, he like came through and like was really good at all this. And he's been on all 3 issues and will for sure be on issue 4. Well, I say for sure unless something happens, but like fingers crossed.
With my Heroic Tales comic, Renzo Rodriguez, and I live in fear of him realizing or other people realizing how good he is and offering more for it. You know, he's so good. You know, and I want to work with Oscar forever and Ron Mosick. You know, I dread the day that the art will change. You know what I mean? I love that.
Yeah.
And have you ever had to, you know, I had a bunch of people that wanted to work and then they couldn't work and then they flaked out. Then I never heard of them again. You know, there was a lot of missteps making to get to where I am right now. You know, I made a bunch of them. Other people made a bunch of them, you know.
Thankfully in Sister Grimm, so Nicholas, he does the layouts and pencils and inks and colors, and thankfully he's been there. The only thing we've had to change is letterers. The letterer who was on issues 1 and 2 was unavailable to carry on, so we've switched over. It was originally C. Hess, and now I've switched over to George Medina for issue 3 and 4, and possibly onwards. Like we've had some other issues in our world where we've had to switch artists. Like again, it's just commitments or things come up, life happens, people have kids, people get new jobs or whatever. So Marvel wants you or whatever. So like there's just other opportunities, right? And like depending on people's schedules, things don't always line up. Like we are doing our best to keep all of our artists like on
I tried out
the story that we want to, but life happens.
I gave 4, like I there was 4 people who wanted this one job, and I was like, yeah, I'll pay you all for a tryout. And 2 of them, you know, the other one's like, yeah, sure. So I gave them the script, and I never heard from them again. You know, they were dying for work. I don't know. You know, what do you want to do, buddy? You know, so I paid 2 guys for tryouts, and I picked one.
Yeah,
we're trying for different fun stories. Yeah, I can't wait to.
Yeah, well, I think that's the thing too.
I'm dying. I want to tell people about the story I'm working with Oscar on, but I'll soon to tell about it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and that's the thing too, where it's just like you want to keep like even as writers, like we can lose interest and artists can lose interest too. So you want to like you also have to keep things going and keep things interesting because they can have shinier things that come on and burnout happens. So yeah, so like thankfully my artist is stuck around and hopefully he sticks around longer because I do like love his like it's not very like this like typical art style like you see, but like it's just really suited the story and like
very
and we talked about like limiting the color palette to also like because it's very like purples, greens, and pinks, and then there's like a secondary palette of kind of blues and oranges, and so we could let some skin tones and stuff kind of seep through. So it has like this very like surreal vibe to it, but it's like it is like technically like in just a regular world like this. But we've actually like like there's the origin story, like I mentioned in this anthology. Like I don't have the comics by hand, but like this is like the origin story that it came from. It's funny, it's a flip book and I'm holding it upside down anyways. But like we start turning into comics, and in the comics we actually use 2 different art because Lily appears in 2 of the stories, and one it's told from her daughter's perspective, And we had this like different artist who came in and did that. And she has more of like almost like a anime kind of style. So like you see Lily Connors in a different style, and then you switch it over, and there's another story called Angel of Death, which is about Lily Connors and this experience with death. And we had our original artist that kind of connected us with all of our Argentinian ones, called Mateo Maciorowski, and he has this more like a cartoony style, but he tends to use like one color and really focus it. So it almost has more of like a cartoony but like Sin City kind of vibe, where so it's like this, they're both like very different styles. So it was kind of interesting seeing her drawn in different styles and like just compared to like the artist that is like on the main titles. So it's been fun for that. And like when people do like fan art and stuff, like it's cool seeing all the different ways you can draw things. Yeah, it's awesome.
Somebody drew my character, yay!
Yeah. Yeah, like I've seen her like in little chibi styles, and then there's this artist on Instagram who like I commissioned to do like some art for, and it has this like, he has this other like different, like he does a whole bunch of horror art, but again it's like quite cartoony, but also like kind of realistic and like creepy. So like it's great like seeing all the different styles you can do. And the original concept artist who kind of the first person to ever draw Sister Grimm was like this very like beautiful like classic kind of like, she does more like fan art for like that you see on like kind of like young adult novels is almost how I describe. I don't know if to me that shouldn't be a style, but in my head that is a style. So kind of how she drew Sister Grimm was also very different. So it's been cool seeing like all the different ways.
So that's cool. Since you created this character and then you said you had somebody, did you write a paragraph? This is what she looks like. This is, or you know what I mean? Or was it just like, I have this character, draw it?
No, I actually like kind of came up like her original kind of thing was like a bit of Kate Beckinsale in Underworld. Like that was almost like the kind of foundation, but like less vampire, less leather and guns, and more like Grim Reaper and stuff like that. So excuse me, like so like, but that was kind of like the foundation, and then we like changed it up. So yeah, cool. But and a lot of people, so she always kind of has like the shorter black hair, which that seems to be like consistent. And then how she looks as a Reaper, like people always have like do the face divide and stuff like that, and her clothes are very similar, but like what she actually looks like and like her body type can change a bit, and depending on what people's styles and stuff. So like there's
so how cool was that though, to his words, you give it to somebody and then they gave you back a picture that, you know, and did it match your image in your head, or was it different, but you're like, that works anyway?
Yeah, no, like I think everyone who's drawn her, like it's always a bit of a surprise, especially when different artists come in, because like very much like there was the very original one, and then the artist like that we picked, he had like a different kind of spin on it, and now I very much like associate his art with her because he's on the main title. So anytime someone draws something, it's like it's never like wrong, but it's like I feel like no one's ever really got it wrong or anything like that. But it's just different, but it's very like cool to see stuff. I still get it like every time. I don't know why, like every time my artist like sends me stuff, I'm like nervous, like opening the file, because I think part of me is just like, what if I hate it?
Yeah.
I don't know why I assume
that,
like,
that I'll get like, you know, Oscar will send me like something finished, and I'm like, I don't want to open this mail.
Yeah,
what if, you know, I always end up liking it. You know what I mean? But like, there's always
I don't know what that is.
3 pages. I'm not ready to look at them right now. What, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I know exactly what you.
Yeah, and I don't know what that is. Like, I'm glad that someone else experiences that, because I feel like I'm always nervous, and I like hate when like sometimes he's like draws a panel, and I'm like, oh, this isn't working for the story. I have to tell him to redraw the whole panel. Because I've like done.
I don't know how your artists work, but Renzo works in layers. He's very, very smart.
Yeah.
And, like one time, I was just like, oh, there's the patriarch stand, and there was a billboard behind him, and the billboard, I wanted the center of the panel to be his face, you know, but there was a billboard behind, and I was just like, oh man, like I don't know how much work this is gonna, but can you get rid of that billboard? Okay, 5 seconds later, because it was just a layer.
Yeah,
but I don't, you know, I was like, oh, okay, all right. It's like, yeah. Everything background's a layer. This mid, I was like, oh, okay, all right. Yeah, I thought. I'm thinking he's erasing the whole thing and drawing the.
Yeah. Well, then there is sometimes where you're like, hey, can you just quickly like pull this out? And they're like, that's a complete redraw. And you're like, well, damn, I'm super sorry about that. And maybe we can come up with a plan B on my suggestion there. How can we work with this?
Yeah, that hasn't happened yet, but I you know, I don't know. I guess with digital, does your artist work paper, or does he work?
I'm pretty sure he's digital. Yeah, I know some of them have like a mix, but I think he's pretty digital. So it's has some room for
Yeah,
easier to clean up.
I especially don't know how to draw digital, but it's layers. Like I forget what Renzo said. He goes, "Oh yeah, that's just 2 taps. That's the way to fix it." So you know.
Yeah.
Oscar probably knows. Oscar and Renzo are buddies. The advantages of digital art, but you know, you can't sell digital art.
Yeah. Well, no, otherwise you're like whiting it out, I guess. Like
The
that
billboard
seems to be like what other people do.
They were at a gas station. Matter of fact, that page is one of the 5 pages. That's the preview. It's when he was talking to the family with the broken car at the gas station. There was just a big billboard that said gas, and I said, "Can we get rid of that?" Because his head is in the middle, and then halfway through, and it looked like it said ass. You know what I mean?
It's a little distracting.
A little distracting.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you have this one artist, and you've been happily working with the same artist. You've never had to get rid of anybody, or this isn't working. It's not you, it's me, kind of thing.
We've had some conversations with a few artists that things didn't work out, and we had to switch artists. Like it's not, thankfully not for Sister Grimm. Sister Grimm's been pretty fortunate, but I know in the beginning we had a few people kind of trial things, and it just they were.
Yeah, I had a bunch
fit,
of people try out, and like I said, some of them just never came back. Like, here's the script. I guess they hated the script that much, or I don't know, but. You know, I had a bunch of people that my hair's crazy. I had a bunch of people try out, a bunch of people like, I'm dying for work. Okay, here, do this. And then never heard from them. But I got to say, I'm pretty lucky. I'm pretty lucky.
Well, and I think
now I assemble the Avengers.
It's important because like it's so cool. Yeah.
Did I lose you?
Yeah, I think it's tricky because it's like doing a comic is so. Oh, are we out of sync?
Yeah, you started a robot down. Some artists make it digital.
Time, bro.
Paper.
Are we back?
Yeah, I see what you. So Oscar's saying you could print it on paper and then ink it on paper to sell. Okay, best of both worlds. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know I know some people who work digitally, like they draw pencils and then they upload their pencils and they ink it and then they take down and like I know there's like a whole bunch of different ways you can do it, obviously. So, but yeah, I was trying to say I don't know where things cut out or anything. But I was talking about like working with artists. It's like it's so collaborative. So like if you don't have that fit, like if you guys just can't communicate, you can't like. If I'd been like, this is my script, and the things just come back, and you're like, that's not what I wanted at all. Like, you just have to find that fit, and like, sometimes you just don't have that. Like, you're just not meant to work with each other. You're not the right person for the story, or whatever. But you gotta do what's best for the story.
Fortunate. Like you said, I get nervous every time I open up a file, and I'm like, oh my god, that is so good. And then I do a trick. I get my wife, who's not a comic book person, who hasn't read the script, and then there's no dialogue, so it's just art. And I have her tell me the story. Tell me the story. You know, like at first she's like, "What are you talking about? There's no word." And I'm like, "No, look at the, to see if there's continuity from the panels and everything like that." Because that's so difficult. Like Renzo is so good with the storytelling. And a few times, I'll send them a script. There's 4 panels on a page, and I get 7 panels back, and I'm like,
"Yeah,
he made the right choice."
Yeah, for sure. I know, like when I first started, like my Sister Grimm script, like number 1 versus like what I've done for number 3. Like number 1 is very prescriptive, where it's just like a third of the panel, like this, and it was like this perspective and all this stuff. Whereas this, like now that like we've kind of had that like initial like trying to figure things out and work with each other and like basically just figure out how each other communicate, and both of us like have got to know the story better, so we're both able to tell it better, I think. I kind of like can loosen the rein a little bit, and I was like, this page is 5 panels, like these are the panels, like arrange them how it makes sense, or like, and every now and then there'll be something where I'm like, this is the main focus, so like it needs to be here, or I'll have like a very specific vision, but I try not to like kind of invade his creativity as much as I can, because like he also knows what he's doing.
Like with Renzo and I, like I'm a word guy and he's the art guy, so you know, if he feels it needed 7 panels, then who am I to argue with him?
Yeah, yeah,
Even
yeah,
less
for sure.
than 5, if you ask me, but he did extra work, you know.
Yeah, yeah, that was his
Just
fault.
what was push up on a face, and I'm like, yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Do people sell textless versions of comic books? Like no words? I'm sure some people do. I don't. I don't know.
Isn't
Kyle,
there isn't there a whole series called Hush or something like that? I thought that there is some people who like basically there's no dialogue,
well, every once
like
in a while,
in
there's like
DC or Marvel or something.
I know that GI Joe had the silent issue with Snake Eyes. The ninja went and did a mission. All you know. I think there was like an opening caption, and then the rest was just paneled. I know Splato Comics that Richard C. Myers had a silent comic, but I don't know. I'm not a fan of even when I'm reading a regular comic and there's like 2-3 pages of nothing. I feel like I don't know that it's a little lazy. They should be
Yeah.
worried, but like
It's funny
that's
because
too big.
the first issue of Sister Grimm is like very like, and I know like I was like kind of because like for me like I feel like I get more value out of like comics with more text. My Little Pony aside, which was too much, but like when there's text that slows you down a little bit and like lets you kind of like it does help with the pacing as well. So like when I wrote issue 1 of Sister Grimm, like because Hades was helping me and I was like, should I have like a narration? Should I have an internal monologue? And he was very much like, just let the story tell, or just let the artist tell the story. So like there's dialogue, she interacts with a few people, but it's very light. And I know like I was nervous putting it out there because it felt like there should be more text. And but thankfully I've gotten like really good feedback from it where people are like, no, like this is really cool how like it's like it serves the story and it's not just like words for the sake of words, and you can tell like the emotion and stuff with the art. So like again, I can't take all the credit for it. Like I was fortunate to like work with a good artist who was able to like bring the emotion forward, but like I know like I was nervous because like you like even me like I'm just like I read a comic with like not enough text. I'm like you can finish it super quick and you're like, well, that was a waste. And then hearing you be like, oh, it feels lazy. I'm like, oh god.
I just I read a lot of like Jack Kirby and Stan Lee, and you sit for an hour reading a comic, and then the example I always give is like the Michael Bendis years of Avengers. You just like that was it. That was it. So that has to be a balance. Yeah, there was a Oscar brought this up. Where is it? The pizza dog. Yeah, there was in a recent. Geez, it's probably 8 years ago already. Recent shows you that time is flying. It was all silent, but it was a dog. I'm playing with the idea of one of the characters has a cat, and I'm thinking maybe telling the story through the cat's perspective. You're not going to put words because cats don't speak, so maybe put like an 8-page silent story through a cat.
Yeah.
I
feel like it's a fun experiment. I've actually seen recently there's someone I follow on Twitter who has basically a comic. It's called I think it's called Blindness, or it's basically about a character who goes blind and the whole comic book is black with like just text. And I haven't read it yet. But I know like it was like so intriguing. I'm just like, because again, like that's the whole indie world. Like you can experiment with stuff. Like you can like put it on Kickstarter, and like if people want to back it, which I did because I'm like, this is fascinating. I want to like
never
see how he did it.
The only thing I could compare it to, and everybody laughs because I always bring up role-playing games whenever I talk to people, but we were playing a superhero role-playing game, and the storyline was everybody was like the Punisher, so nobody had powers, everybody had guns.
Yeah.
And they went into a warehouse and somebody cut the power, so it was pitch dark.
Yeah.
Now they're guys with guns in the pitch dark, and I couldn't tell them what they saw. I couldn't, so what I mean? Like I planned it this way, so they were like freaking out. So they said, what do I smell? I reach around, like they had to act like they were blind and get information, through verbal words of how a blind person. So it's not a comic book, but it's a role playing game where everybody was blind for the purpose until somebody found the light switch and turned the lights on. But it was great because they were all like loaded up, they had their guns, they were all ready to go, and then the lights went out and they're like, we can't push we don't. But that was
who?
What does this say? Well, my cats talk to me all the time. Yeah, I don't have cats.
The imaginary cats.
Are you a cat person?
I have a dog.
Oh.
It doesn't mean I'm not a cat person. I just have a dog, which I find dogs are a little like needier and like demand all my attention. But like I also have kids, so I can't really complain.
I would love a dog, but I got to put up a big fence. You know, I'm not ready. Dog is a lot of work. A cat is just put food in the bowl.
Yeah,
it comes up to me, I pet it. It rolls around. It's cute, and then it goes off and does its own stuff.
Yeah, I found we had cats growing up, and I find them like kind of easier. Like you just put down the food, and
a cat,
you can ignore them. They can ignore you.
Yeah. But it's going on an hour now. I'm going to go outside, grill some burgers. So we'll bring up your campaign one more time. Anything you want to say that I didn't bring up or you didn't get a chance to bring up because I talked too much?
No, I don't think a ton. Like obviously, like I'd love it if people would check it out. We do have some more rewards coming, so like I can sneak peek them. So like I keep mentioning them, and we're running out of time. But like I've been busy. But like the plan is to like they're going to like release some like exclusive skulls that I've been painting and like decorating and stuff with people. So these aren't finished, so I'm not going to like talk about them too much. But if you're into skulls, we have some like more kind of stuff coming that we'll be announcing soon. We're going to just start doing some draws. Basic like now that we're funded, we can just start like being like thanking people, I guess. So basically everyone who's backed us, once we get to 50 backers, we're going to do a draw and then probably one at the end of the campaign as well. So yeah, if people check it out or at least share it, that would be great because obviously we're trying to get the word out. We get that you don't want to back anything. Like even this, I find once you're doing a Kickstarter, like you are in the Kickstarter community and with everyone with a live campaign, man, do I spend a lot of money when I'm doing Kickstarters because all of a sudden you find everyone else's campaigns and you're like, hey, I also have a Kickstarter. Can we cross promote? I'm like, okay.
You know, I so mmany people I back their stuff because after talking to them, I'm like, I like that guy. I want that, you know.
So. Yeah, 100%. Well, and especially when like they're close and you're like, oh, and even people I don't know, if they're just close and I'm like, I'll throw $5 at this. I'm like, just want you to succeed. I know how stressful it is and how much work it is to run one of these. So
yeah. I'm doing.
You're doing one.
My Kickstarter is hasn't reached the goal yet. And I'm like, come on, it's got to reach the goal.
and I find when you launch it, you're like refresh. It's like just turns into that. Like every I think I've mellowed a little now, but at the start you're just like every time there's a new backer, you're like, yeah. I'm like, who is it? Just in there, just like, oh thank God, what did they pack? So, yeah,
I launched on a Friday night, and that Sunday I left my phone and the computer, and my wife and I went out because I was getting crazy looking at looking at all the updates and everything. I was like, I got to get out of here. We went sat down, then went to a park. I was like, I got to get away from all this. It's driving me.
And Kickstarter is stressful because it's all or nothing. So it has that gambling vibe to it until you fund. And then I know like with our last Kickstarter, we actually were like fortunate enough to like fund in the first 24 hours, but it was also a graphic novel. So it was a higher price point. So it was like you needed fewer backers to get to your goal. Whereas this one, like, I know we need more backers because it's a lower price point. So it was like I had to live in that stress longer, which is probably what most people have to do. Like obviously you're not always going to fund in a day. Like that's why you go 30 days and set goals and stuff. But
I'm halfway through. I'm halfway through on my Kickstarter, and I'm just above halfway on the goal. And I'm like, oh God.
Come on, people, get in there. go back and comment.
Don't you like me?
Yeah. Well, then I do on a recent update, we highlighted your campaign, so like hopefully that sends a few people your way.
I love talking to people about comics, and I think this is people laugh at me, but I think this is important. I think comic books are an important medium. I do think American style comics are dying, through whatever. I think people aren't reading as much. So I do think it's like a cultural thing. Comics are an American institution, and how come they're doing good in Japan? They're doing good in Europe. Maybe we're in a transformative period, but I'd like to think I'm doing my part of keeping an American medium going. I think if jazz was struggling, I think all the jazz artists would get together and do something about. But comic book people, it's like they're all fighting, they all hate each other, they all screaming and yelling. It's like, dude, the house is on fire and you guys are all yelling at each other. I just don't get it. I don't get
Yeah.
it.
Like, I know it's like a cheesy saying, but like I say it all the time. And that's like why we started the Anyone world. But it's like the whole like rising tides lift all ships. Like,
Right. Yes.
if I can help other people be better, like,
and the fact that Marvel used to be the watermark, if the strength of Marvel was the strength of the industry, and Marvel's going down like the Titanic. It's like,
I think there's a lot of power in just the individual, like the indie world, I guess. Like that's what it all is. Like,
so that me and you got to start selling.
Me and you, we're doing this single-handedly lifting up the comic industry.
but if we're joking, but if not us, then who? You know what I mean? Like you said, you constantly promote on Kickstarter. Well, Stan Lee's not around anymore, so we have to be our own Stan Lees.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and thankfully
Twitter's fighting with everybody else about comic books.
Yeah,
everybody, the house is on fire. Grab a bucket.
Thankfully, I've met a lot of good people who are not fighting as much. So we've managed to like amass a good community of people, and thankfully, like meet like I know the first time I met you, like every time you meet someone else, you just like expand a little bit more and have more like good people that you surround yourself with. And I think that makes us all stronger. I feel like I'm feeling like I'm an inspirational poster or something right now. Starting to feel cheap, but I mean it. I don't want to be an.
Let's all grab hands and pray now.
Yeah.
I gotta go. I'm starting to get hangry.
I'll shut up.
That's okay. But thanks a lot. Check out Kickstarter, Sister Grimm. I just want to make sure. Yep. ASAP Comics, and you can get more than just Sister Grimm. I know I got a couple of your books. I gotta get another one because I gotta finish the story that I started reading.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, everybody.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.